hello, and welcome along to episode 13 of Dragon Keepers. Today I have playing with me Josh, who has a mouthful of chocolate.
No, I'm eating posh chips. I am Josh. I will be playing Patrick, the Forest Gnome Wildfire Druid.
I have Jamal.
Hey guys, Jamal here. I'll be playing a stock image.
I have Alora.
Actually, I'll be playing Emil, our Celestial Warlock.
I'll be playing Alora, apparently. Great. That's going to be an interesting turn of events.
I'm Alora. I'm playing Natani.
I have Michaela.
Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm playing Twiggy, the Halfling Monk.
And I have Jay.
Hey, I'm Jay, and I'm playing Arya, the Arcane Trickster.
And I screwed up the GIF, but it's okay because what we have is a before and after of Natani. So the GIF is Natani pre-Elderling, and the image is Natani post-Elderling. But I don't know how I managed that. But I reverted it to the old one. When we last left off, we had just arrived in Kelsingra. You were attacked by some nasty shadow-like creatures.
Oh yeah, we were.
But after the fact, the group of you managed to get back to your feet. You can take a short rest. I accidentally long rested your character, Jamal, so you can just be happy about it.
Thanks.
No problem. But yeah, you can all short rest, sort your health out, whatever. I don't really care if you just heal to full. Not really that bothered. But the important thing is that you are now in the city of Kelsingra. Reminder that Kelsingra is a very large city in comparison to anything that any of you have ever experienced, including Arya. Not only in terms of how many buildings the city has, but also in terms of how big those buildings are, and indeed how big the spaces between the buildings are. What is so noticeable about Kelsingra is in a lot of situations you have two sets of passageways or steps. For example, you have a large thoroughfare as if ready for 4 carts to pass each other on either side, or 2 on either side. And then to the side of that you have what you Americans would call a sidewalk, or a sort of area where pedestrians would walk. Those areas in the centre have been made that size for dragons to be able to pass through the city with ease. There are no archways or bridges built, except for the single bridge that goes nowhere anymore. So if you remember, there is a large cleft across the city, where once it looks like there was once a river, and now there's just this huge rift. It does crack through some of the buildings as well. There is half a bridge, and it just stops. It will be a little bemusing to your eyes the first time you see it, because those of you who are well in tune with the silver and within the buildings and walkways will actually see the full extension of the bridge going over the river, and people passing by both ways. And then when you sort of blink a few times, you will see instead the half-destroyed Blackstone bridge with the silver veining coming through it. It still holds the memories of being a bridge, and indeed the memories of those that walked across it. Lots of buildings have full facades. These buildings have all their memories intact, so you will see them as blue and orange and purple and crimson and violet, and all sorts of other incredibly bright colours. And then some of the buildings that are ruined or cracked or missing parts are that black stone with silver veining through.
As we are seeing these two dual timelines at once, I'm gonna pull on Natani's sleeve. Have we gone crazy? Is this what crazy is like?
I don't think so yet. We'll see.
Okay. I will keep my eyes peeled.
Carson will turn to you all, and I suggest that we pair up to explore the city, and any signs of trouble, we regroup at this square. And he would gesture towards what is a large square with a beautiful old fountain in it, and you can see memories of the water spraying from it and different people gathering around it. Unfortunately now it is just a dried out fountain. There is no water flowing through it. But this is like the public square. You do have to be careful walking through here, as it feels like you're going to bump into a lot of people that you will see in the memory images. But that's what Carson's
Dibs on Arya. As I saunter run over
Cool.
and say that out loud.
Just a reminder, I will just put you on the battle map briefly so that you can see all the people that are with you. When you go over to Ari, Davy looks a little devastated.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Devastating.
Fine.
But he
This
will go on
is Davy.
okay, cool. So Davy sort of, oh, okay.
Emil is dead.
Yeah, well, that happens occasionally.
Let's just throw him in the water.
Bushes in water.
No body, no problem.
Yes, so you may pair up with people you can see, but not with people you cannot see.
Yes. Come here, Davy.
Twiggy,
you and me
Twiggy,
are going
how do you
places.
feel about Patrick going off with Davy instead of with you?
Twiggy tries not to look jealous. And goes this way. Acts casual.
Does she go with anyone, or does she just walk off?
No, I'm just walking this way, like, acting unbothered.
I'll trail off after Twiggy and with a wave at Mara.
Okay. So Arya and Emil. Is that the pairing that we're getting?
Yeah.
We're kind of
Okay,
stuck with
cool,
each
good.
other.
Yeah, so Carson's going to wait at the square in case of any trouble, and he's going to come and find you if there is any trouble. When you... I'm not going to utilize this map at all, so just be happy that it exists. You did it to pay you off.
Nice.
Patrick and Davy, as you head off through the town, Davy will sort of marvel at the destruction. And you note that he seems less in tune with the memories than you are, Patrick. Certainly he doesn't move out of the way of the pedestrians walking down the street.
Yeah, I will actively try to, probably bumping into him and
it's very difficult not to when you see somebody striding towards you confidently. But Davy's just walking through them, so he obviously isn't seeing them all the time.
What a muggle.
It doesn't seem...
Wow.
It doesn't seem to have any major effect on him. Twiggy, as you sort of confidently stride away, you see before you a collection of buildings, sort of 5 or 6 houses right next to each other, and then one slightly larger building with a deep blue facade. You're not entirely sure what the purpose of that building is. Most of these houses, you either don't have doors or their doors are open. You're free to enter and explore.
Great.
I've got
I do that.
2 black and silver ones. I've got a magenta, a cyan, a vermilion. I don't even know what color that is, but we'll say vermilion. We have
kind of green, I think.
Great, love that.
No, it's red. Excuse me.
It's red. Okay, well, those are sort of the same thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like.
Yeah, we have a very pale. We have a very pale rose one, and then this deep blue sort of larger building. Are you exploring any particular building?
Do
you want the rundown again?
None of them are really calling to me. I'm just kind of wandering. I would turn to Natani actually and say, are we looking for anything specific?
I don't know. I say we just explore.
Okay.
Look.
I'll just, let's pick a building at random.
So obviously the black and silver ones are the ones that are more destroyed and ruined. Sorry, go on, Laura.
Yeah.
I like blue.
Let's look at the blue building.
The big blue one or the cyan one?
Big blue.
Blue.
Big blue. Okay, yeah. So you sort of head into this larger building, and at first you're not entirely sure what it might have been or what it is. Touching, you feel a sort of instinct to touch a dark silver panel that runs all the way around the house. And as soon as you do, the lights come on in the house.
Whoa.
You will notice that this is called Jidzin. It tells you, effectively, that it is called Jidzin. It is... you don't quite understand how it's made, but it's like a really brushed metal that runs all the way around the building that seems to be linked to the lighting and absorbs your thoughts. As soon as you move your fingers away, the lights go off. So you have to be in contact with the Jidzin to keep it lit. You know that these were used as sort of emergency lighting in Elderling times when the main lights, or indeed the candle-lit lights, the flame-lit lights failed.
Well, is it dark without these lights? Like pitch dark in here?
It's pretty dark, but there are windows on both sides of the building, and the sunlight is coming through.
Okay. So we can still see.
Yeah, you can see without it, but it's quite easy to maintain your fingers in contact with this building the whole way round. After a little while, you see a stone slab made of black stone with the silver veining. Next to it is a series of unusual tools and implements. This really isn't the music I'm looking for. Let's do this. There we go. Some unusual tools and implements next to the big slab.
I will look at those.
Yeah. At first, you're not entirely sure what you're holding, and then give me a medicine check.
Whoa.
Totally should be. I'm helping her look at these.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, good.
Medicine check with advantage.
That's 14.
Okay, and Natani, give me a nature check.
Oh, come on.
Yes, Natani, give me a nature check.
10.
Okay. So neither of you are really familiar with horses. You haven't really seen horses before.
No.
But you do note that this medical implement is something for pulling a stone out, or perhaps it's like what you would use to remove a splinter, but way larger scale.
Big old tweezers.
Yeah, effectively. And then another thing seems like a pair of tongs for holding something hot. And then a little further over, you note this sort of half a mantelpiece. And Natani, when you brush your hand against it, you see that it once held a beautiful shield. And with your rolls, you're able to deduce that this was once used for prying something out of an animal's foot, and then attaching metal shoes to the animal's foot. And indeed, when you place your hand on the side of this sort of large metal slab, you have memories of an animal that you don't really recognize, but is close to those shaggy horses you met or saw the dragons eating down in the south, where Azanth was really annoyed at how much hair got in his mouth. And you would understand that this is a place where they shoed horses. And in fact, the more you explore, the more you find out that this was a blacksmith. And Natani, give me an investigation check, please. You can use wisdom for this if you prefer.
Well, that would help.
I don't know if that helps you, but yeah, if it does help, go ahead. No?
Nope. Oh, it's a natural 19, though, for a 19.
Oh, great. Okay, cool. So yeah, you feel yourself very drawn to this strangely ornate, long piece of black stone, I guess. It's a little bit like a tombstone. It comes out of the ground. It's very long and narrow, and then it's got sort of ornate markings all around it. And as you place your finger on the very top, it remembers the first time that... I need her name, sorry. Adriel purchased this home. Adriel was a fiercely independent woman. You can remember her already now, as you picture it. She was very broad of shoulder, a bit of a heavy-set face, perhaps half-orc, very broad of shoulder, very strong. She was wearing a leather jerkin, and she had grease down her, and you know it was hot in this building a lot of the time. The more you run your hands down it, at first she talks about her dragon, the dragon that shaped her. A beautiful, huge black dragon that almost shone blue in the sunlight. And then she talks about the dragon harness that she worked on, the various tools and implements she smithed. And indeed, if you were to spend long enough here running your hand very slowly down what appears to be almost a diary or a catalogue of memories, you could learn everything that Adriel knew about smithing. You could learn everything she experienced in her lifetime that she deemed worth recording. She speaks of the man who used to live next door, an old and wise man, a wizard of sorts, who used to conjure these fabulous illusions at celebrations and festivals. She speaks of her friend, a younger female known as Gwyndolin, who had a wonderful garden a little further down in her pale rose cottage. And as you continue, I need a charisma saving throw, please. I'm using all your good stats, Natani.
Yeah, woohoo! -1. That's a 1.
Great, love that.
An unnatural
a
one.
dirty 1. Twiggy, as you come up the stairs, you know, as you approach the stairs, just at the bottom of the stairs, round the corner, somewhere a little private, you notice Natani almost in communion with this black stone, with a silver veining, and you see that she's sort of almost trying to pull her hand away and not quite managing it. What do you do? Join in?
No, I'm looking. I guess I'm looking at her face, her eyes specifically to see are they like kind of glazed over?
They're closed.
Okay.
As I said, as if in like communion. It's like she's praying almost. Her hand upon it, and just sort of concentrating very hard.
I'll wait like a beat or two, and then.
She will stay there for like 45 minutes. So, she's already been attached to it for 5 or 6.
Oh yeah, if it's been that long already, I will like. Hey, I will try to remove.
As soon as you take her hand off, she comes back to herself.
Oh.
You good? Were you seeing something exciting?
It was certainly interesting.
Hmm.
I never thought about working with metal the way that she did.
Oh.
It's fascinating.
So you saw how they did their work here.
I mean, there's so much. Like living somebody else's life.
Yeah. I could see how that would draw you in. Forget who you are for a second. Maybe neither of us should touch things at the same time, you know? One of us should be
As
aware.
you say, oh, I see what you mean, yeah. You will hear in your mind, from quite a distance away, it sounds almost fuzzy because of all the memory stone you're surrounded by, Balapa telling you that the Elderlings remembered their pasts like dragons in this manner.
Uh-huh.
They often did do it in pairs, so as not to sink too deep, and to remember to eat.
Yeah.
Other such activities. So just to tell you, you can all have that piece of information, like all the players. Don't feel like that's just a Balapa thing. Your dragons would inform you that Elderlings often learn from their ancestors by utilizing the memory stone to learn different lifetimes, sometimes even to live different lifetimes.
Wow.
And I'm going to leave you guys just in that thought for a moment, and I will return to you shortly. Emil and Arya, you find yourself headed towards this large sort of church-like building. And actually to a building just a little bit to the side of it, which is covered in these beautiful purple and silver, sort of almost like scales. It's like a building of scales. It's quite large, big enough to walk a dragon into, a good-sized dragon into. But you almost feel like you're being urged to go there. Right? Mm-hmm. Any hesitation about going in, Emil?
No hesitation.
Okay. So as the two of you head in, there's this huge door that is closed. It's like double doors. I think like barn doors, but multiplied by 5. And then there's this small entrance where the door no longer exists. And as you walk in, you two sort of automatically put your hand out as if you've lived here all your life to press the light switch, inverted commas, the silver strip. And you see these sort of huge, how do I explain them? Like a very shallow bathtub that are quite far off the ground, sort of almost 10 or 15 feet off the ground. You're not quite sure what they're used for, but next to them are these long trolleys and other shelves covered in ornaments that appear mostly to have disintegrated or be out of use. Everything here is made of this black stone with silver, and some of it maintains a new colour, a facade, still made of that black stone, but remembering its colour. And it's a beautiful, vibrant room with a huge hearth at the very centre, like a large chimney with a sort of 4-sided fireplace.
Okay. Is there like the central area? Is there any like notable black stone?
Yeah, so on the chimney itself, there is a little plaque above each mantelpiece. And when you get close, you actually discover that it's lots and lots of thin strips right next to each other. And in fact, as you run your hand along it, you will just see a name and a face of all the different people that worked here.
Okay.
And then just in front of the fireplace is one of these sort of... It looks like a tombstone. It is just a round piece of stone like this. And you sort of reach out, Natani. You reach out, Arya, and almost feel uncomfortable, as if it's not something you connect with. It just doesn't quite feel right to get involved with those memories. And then your attention is turned to a smaller dark stone bench just next to one of these huge shallow bathtubs. Emil, you are very drawn to that tombstone-like thing.
Alright.
You notice that Arya sort of goes to touch it and then hesitates back and sort of moves over, her attention taken elsewhere.
I sort of gave this sort of curious thought as to what the hell was like. This say, what the heck? Why just like coil? And I'll walk over and take a little look at it myself.
Okay. You feel drawn to touch it, and as soon as you do, you're sort of almost swept into a bustling room. You suddenly see this room how it's meant to be. Upon two of these four large sort of shallow bathtubs, you see dragons either sat or laid on their side or back. Here, multiple people worked on grooming, but also on polishing, on mending different bits of the scales, on bathing the dragon's claws. All of these different tools for different ways of grooming dragons. And the memories that you are walking through belong to Vakis. Vakis was the head dragon groomer here for 207 years. His knowledge is embedded all over this place in various stone tablets. And you know that his personal stone, his memoir stone, is actually upstairs where he had sleeping quarters. But suddenly you realise that there's this sort of strange metal scourer which is designed for polishing scales, another one which is a pick that's designed for sort of getting things from between the scales. And other tools for sharpening dragon claws, working around their eyes, even a tool for brushing their eyelashes. And indeed, as you're having these thoughts, Arya, as you place your hand on this bench, you're dragged into this memory of this stunningly beautiful emerald dragon. You know she's female and she's on her side, and her wing is bent in the wrong direction. It looks like she's landed really badly on it. And you see two very tall, thin females working to reset the wing. And you note that two different types of people worked here, dragon healers and dragon groomers. These dragon healers didn't do so much magical work at all with healing. It was just physical, resetting, reshaping claws. And indeed, at one point, you see a sort of thin, long piece of metal being attached to the wing to help the wing brace. And you realise that there's a lot of information here that could help you in healing a dragon if they were ever injured. When you turn, Arya, you note that Emil is sort of a little a la Natani, just communing with this stone. A little lost in it, which you haven't been, even in your exploration of all the other houses back at the other village.
Right. So I was saying I'll wait a few minutes just to sort of let him explore the memories before.
I'll take a charisma save then, Emil. Carry on, Jay, sorry.
I'm gonna 13.
Yep. Emil remains constantly focused on this stone.
Yeah. Yeah, after a few minutes is when I'll intervene and draw him away from it.
Mm-hmm. As you put his hand away, Emil, there's almost this feeling of loss, like all of this incredible knowledge that you nearly were absorbing, and suddenly Arya's taken that away from you, is how it feels.
Ah, damn it. Could have done with a couple of minutes longer.
Oh, sorry. I thought 10 minutes was...
We can come back later. There's oceans to be learned here. But...
Yeah, there's so much. From what I got from over there, years of knowledge to figure out how to, or to know how to, like, kill dragons. What,
Wait, heal dragons?
Yeah, physically. Main one I saw was readjusting a broken wing.
Oh. From what I saw, it almost looked like as if it was a dragon spa, just caring for the dragons and making them pretty and beautiful, but...
Yeah,
I guess people here did more than just make them look good.
Yeah, from what I figure, it's both. A place to get them groomed and healed. Make them feel good outside and inside.
I want to visit. You hear
Some people
Amethyst.
have looking at it.
Amethyst, that fucking name. You hear harmony in your mind. It does make sense, right?
Yeah.
Amethyst, oh dear. So you can tell her enthusiasm for wanting to be able to get to this particular building, and she remembers that those shadow bathtubs are like the warm spot, and that not only will they warm her, they will also sort of maneuver to allow her body to lie properly within them.
Oh. Okay, that's neat. Yeah, I'll, like, given that bit of knowledge, I want to, like, take a closer look at them. Just, like, get an idea of how they are, how they work.
Yeah, so when you place your hand on these big shallow, you can only get to the walls, right? It's 10 foot tall.
Right.
But there is a sort of broken-y step laddery thing that you can slide across and climb up. And when you put your hand on it, it sinks ever so slightly into it, but you get the impression that your hand doesn't weigh anywhere near enough. It's the weight of the dragon that sort of the stone will embrace. And you do actually remember very briefly from your time in the village that the bed was a big stone slab. You couldn't use it because it didn't exist. But your memory of it existing in that house was it was a big stone slab, and if you were to lay on it, it would most perfectly hold your body. It's like memory foam, but memory stone.
Okay, alright. That's fun.
It's funky.
It forms to the user.
As you sort of follow the memories around this building, both of you can almost smell this sort of cinnamon and bread smell. And you're sort of drawn to look out of what would be the barn doors, which are closed in your lifetime, but in the memory they're wide open. And there is a huge queue of people leading up to what appears to be the open front of some sort of shop. And your eyes are drawn to that spot where this queue is, which is just opposite you in the square. And I'll leave you guys to think about whether you visit or not as we pass over to Patrick. Patrick, Davy, sort of having dodged these people eventually, is now getting more and more in tune. And as you head around the corner, you see this lovely separated, detached cottage. It looks.
Ooh, is this going to be a new home?
It looks like.
I should probably say that in character.
It's turquoise.
Patrick talk?
For what it matters.
Oh no, then never mind. I see nothing.
Well, the building doesn't look necessarily like a home. It looks like a place to visit. But it is like an attached cottage.
Okay, sure. Sorry, was that it? Oh, sorry.
It's from me.
Sorry, I thought you were just describing something we're passing by, not something we're
No. It's you don't have to go into it. It's just beyond that. There's some houses up on the West Hand Hill. There is a very large, square, blockish building where you see, in a memory, someone being rushed into. But this turquoise building, like you see a lot of people coming and going.
It's probably the post office.
Might be.
Davy, what do you think about, not here, because I don't like this color, but what do you think about living here in this city? We spent all this time trying to get here, and now here is here.
I think that's exactly what we're going to be doing eventually. We'll have to get the dragons here, of course, but this is a city for Elderlings, and that's what we're becoming, is it not?
That's what I've already become.
That's true. Though, true Elderlings might be able to wake the city. I get the feeling that we're viewing memories of it.
Yeah, that's actually because of me. It's waking up as we speak. That's why we're saying memories. It's waking.
He hesitates for a moment, and you get the impression, you've seen Twiggy's face do that he's communing with his dragon.
Oh, not that he knows you're lying.
No.
Not that face.
And then he nods and says, Spit says that's true. That it's reacting to our presence. Not just yours, but all of us. But there's more to it, apparently. Truly waking the city is something that might be a little... Well, we'll have to explore. Should we go in and have a look at this place? It looks like it used to be busy.
Sure. And then as we go through, I'll like where the door frame is, I'll take out my mallet and I'll just tap the door frame. Wake up! We're here!
Nothing happens.
Stubborn to see.
Davy sort of leads you in and, whoa! Look at this. And he sort of races over and begins touching different bits of stone. You'll note that the silver on the wall lights the room. But it's nowhere near as interesting as these different bits of stone. They are blocks, and then in front of them there used to be chairs. Some of the chairs are still intact. And as soon as you put your hand to one block, you begin to watch a play. With real actors, not puppets like they have back at home, but people playing the parts, which is very strange. To Patrick and indeed to Davy. No puppets at all. In fact, some people are playing multiple parts as one person. But the more you watch, the more you're drawn into this tale, this story. It's a sort of old form play about a man whose dragon egg was who went to steal back an egg that was stolen from a dragon. And after sort of you guys feel like you've been there for 2 or 3 hours. But only a few minutes later, you'll have witnessed most of this play. And then Davy sort of, almost childlike, begins sort of touching the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And then suddenly stops and, maybe you should, and he blushes, like, deep crimson, and sort of takes his hand away.
What is it? I'm trying to watch the end. He's there.
Oh, we'll have a whole lifetime to explore all of these. But this one is quite unusual.
What is it?
It's a romance. Sort of.
Oh, I've heard of one of those. Is it the opera's Phantom?
No, it's just a dancer.
Just a dancer.
Maybe you should have a look. Come on, let's watch it together. Yeah, exactly what's on your mind. Yes, you are correct to be in the gutter. No, it is not. And as you place your hand on it, you will see a man almost completely unclothed, if you will, who is very
scream,
very erotically dancing. And after a few moments, a woman comes and joins him, at which point Davy's quite disappointed. But even so, you will see a male and female dance, and if you wait long enough, you'll see far more than that. And you will note that all along this back wall are different erotic depictions. Not all of them involving sex per se, but they're meant to be sort of very exciting. This is a pleasure house on one side and a playhouse on the other. Davy sort of a little blushing. Maybe we should check those out another day. Should we go find a place where we could live? Or did you want to stay?
Now I feel like I'm in a weird position. It's like, should we stay and watch the sex scenes unfold in front of us, or should we go find a house to live in together forever? There's like,
Or explore some of the other buildings. You know, you did see that
Yeah,
big block-like building that somebody was being rushed into.
Yeah, I think after screaming at the nudity, I would, as soon as humanly possible,
or halflingly possible, gnomely possible.
Gnome.
I just knew it was short.
Goodness, so disrespectful. Gnomenly possible would like turn it off.
Yeah, as soon as you take your fingers away, it stops.
Oh yeah. And I will.
Turning down off takes a little longer.
What a pervert.
Requires some females.
And I'll suggest going into the building that someone was rushing into.
Yeah. Okay. And as you cross the square, I will come back to Natani and Twiggy. You're next to the stone that tells the life of Adriel, the blacksmith, and indeed of her friends and her lifetime.
Well, if Natani shared what she saw, I would like to check out the house with the big garden and see what's going on there.
The cottage?
Okay, so you head down to the end of the row, where there is this sort of small cottage, but then it has a almost outhouse building that goes around a large courtyard. And that courtyard is a garden, and it's a very specific garden. Here are grown herbs and spices.
Oh, wow.
And various other herbs and plants from all over the world. You know that this home belonged to Gwendolyn. And she was she had a green thumb, I guess is the best way of putting it. And lots of people from all over the world, lots of different elderlings coming through pillars, used to bring her different herbs and seeds to see if she could grow them. She supplied chefs, healers, alchemists, all sorts. But it was also a very beautiful garden.
Are any of these plants still alive, or is it like...
There is no...
Yeah, I figured.
However, you will note that all the flower pots are black stone. And when you place your hands upon them, you can hear her voice, Gwendolyn's voice, talking to you about what each plant is in the order, what the seed looks like, the best way to grow it, how to cultivate it, all that information about that plant, and then the next one, and then the next one. And you could effectively walk around and know how to grow every plant there ever was or will be that she ever found. And
Twiggy looks like, this is so cool. Oh, my dad would be so jealous.
You do also note that she has a stone like Adriel did in her own home, a memoir stone that tells of her life as opposed to just her plants. That would also give you knowledge of sort of how she came to grow things, trials and tests she did on plants to see their properties, all sorts of other things like that.
Cool. Hey, Natani. Can you keep an eye on me? I'm going into the stone.
How long do you want? How long was I under?
About 6 minutes.
Couple minutes? No more than that.
All right.
Thanks.
Yeah. Natani, as you back across the kitchen to give us some space, you lean on what appears to be a cupboard. And very suddenly, like your brain has just been plundered, you are punched in the forehead with a memory of a recipe. It's sort of, you're just meant to lean against the wall, and then suddenly you're making bread. And in that you're folding this bread over and over again, and it's sort of fabulous, fluffy, low, and you're very distracted by it momentarily because you thought you were just leaning on a wall, but you're able to pull yourself away. You're not that fascinated by bread, but you begin to realize that not only is there the sort of documentation of people's work and people's lives, but there's also so many of these little convenience things. You know, why bother writing a recipe book if you can record the recipe on a piece of stone right next to where you make the bread? Or indeed, right next to the stove, you might find how to pan-sear your favourite trout. Or just a memory of a lover or a friend that came for coffee once and it was a nice afternoon. or a beautiful piece of jewelry you once had. Like, there are lots and lots of these little tiny memories imprinted all over the home. Is your hand having a problem, Josh? It's doing this a lot.
I'm just
Making bread.
I'm just very amused by the sentence. Oh, maybe your lover came round for the afternoon and it was nice. I was like, what are you talking about?
No, I said a lover or a friend that came over for an afternoon and it was nice. These little tiny memories
Yeah,
being recorded.
it's just the way you said it. It was like, what are you talking about?
Okay, very well.
A lover came round and it was nice.
It was.
And then they recorded it.
Yeah, exactly.
As Arya said, it was either horny or wholesome, depending on whether it was the friend or the lover. But yeah, there are so many little tiny memories embedded in these homes. But Twiggy, you find yourself dragged into the life of Gwendolyn. And you find that she moved here because she was in love and it wasn't returned. From a fair way across the town, she was desperately in love with a man named Bode. But he married Kimura, his fellow healer, at the House of Healing. She was very sad, and she turned her life and love and all her passion into the garden. Having been formed by a dragon who died when she was fairly young. She was only in her 20s. Wow, Jamel. She was only in her 20s when her dragon died in a fight with humans, which is quite unusual. And in fact, you remember that these humans were unusually white of skin. You get the sense there's a lot more to that story, but she skips past it very quickly. She'd lost her dragon at the age of 26. She'd been in love with a man for 4 years when he married somebody else. And she was a sad and melancholy person, Gwendolyn. But her life quickly turned to joy and beauty. And beauty that she could trust. She felt that was always present for her. These plants and flowers she cultivated. She felt like they were part of her, almost like her children. There is one particular tree that she remembers planting a little way outside the home and across the street. And she planted the sapling when she was 24 years old, 2 years after she moved into this home. And it was still doing well when her last memory was present, which was almost 300 years later.
Whoa.
And as you peek out the window momentarily, you're actually drawn to take your hand off the stone before Natani takes you away. You peek out the window and you see this beautiful willow tree that's hanging over the river that is no longer... I didn't even clock until you just... So I'm going from the book. I have had no concept of the willow tree being for willow. That's so cool. That's mad. That's actually mad. I hadn't even considered. But yes, you see this beautiful willow tree draping over the river. So if effectively you'd be sort of in this house looking out over this tree that sort of droops over the river that still exists. And the tree is still there. It must be over 1,000 years old.
In that case, Twiggy like naturally just comes out of the memory because she's so curious about this tree and is kind of like, Natani, look. I will go over to Natani, pull her. Look, this is my namesake. This is, this woman's life was so sad, but something so beautiful came from it in the end. I think I'm like gonna look at the garden and say I think maybe I'll start this garden back up once we settle down here.
I'm glad that tree's not the one that went poof when Arya tried to use her wand.
Oh no! Oh, thank goodness.
The wand of wonder. I'd forgotten about that. As you do peek out the window, you see Arya and Emil sort of poking their head out of this huge building. Arya, Emil, you've noticed this queue leading up to this beautiful sort of orange and blue building. It looks like a shop front.
All right. Do you think they'll let us cut line?
I don't think they'll be in any condition to say otherwise.
Just my thought. Yeah. Oh.
And doesn't your ghosts complain when they get the line cut on them?
No, but it's quite hard. It's quite hard to not smell the cinnamon bread. And you see this fabulous woman. She's, I guess she looks a bit like a dragonborn in D&D sense. She's very tall, very regal bearing, dark green scaling. She has a lot of scales around her face and indeed a crest like a dragon, and glittering eyes. And she is cooking right there in the window. There's a stove on. She's got this bread that she's handing out, and in it are different sweet meats. She's also serving some cheeses with various different biscuits and breads. And then she's also making what appears to be sort of main courses, if you like. People are getting food to go, but there are also behind her dozens of people sat in rows in this what appears to be a restaurant. And she is incredibly busy and popular. She has a couple of young girls working for her, but she seems to be in charge of this kitchen. As you sort of give it the double blink, the orange and blue facade still holds, but inside most of the tables have crumbled to dust. The kitchen area, however, does seem to be fairly intact, as it's almost entirely made of black stone with silver. And there are sort of different areas for bowls and for the stove and for places to hang things. And each one has tiny little slivers of memory stone next to it. A couple of experimental touches will tell you that these sort of indicate either what goes there or what can be made. Little bits of recipes pop to mind. And you get the idea that her name was Zoya. And she was quite a happy woman. But the bread she's selling, she didn't make. It belonged to her husband. Her husband is a baker and indeed works next door. Harvin. And he was renowned for his pastries and bread. Whereas she just used them in her cooking, and it's all the other food she's cooking.
Right, but whilst we're out on this, because we haven't gone into the build. I guess we are in the building itself.
Arya certainly has poked her head round to look at the stove, and has noted these. But you could still be standing outside watching the line.
Yeah, whilst I'm outside, I do want to have a look around and see what sort of people are around, and also I don't quite understand fully what sort of attacked us when we first entered this city, and I'm sort of, I guess, a little on edge about the potential of being
shades and shadows, undead creatures that had inhabited, or undead aberrations that had inhabited these old buildings, feasting off the memories. In fact, you don't see any as yet.
But as we're walking about, I do want to keep my guard up and be on alert for any more of those things that are just tried to jump us, basically, because.
And indeed, though, as you're thinking about that, you will perhaps take more special note of two fairly heavily armoured men. All of the people you see are Elderlings. They're tall, they're regal, they're long of limb, and they have scaling all over them. Perhaps not all tall, in terms of they're not all over 6 foot, but even when you note one that should be a halfling or a gnome or any other short race, you will see that they're taller than others of those races that you've seen in the past. But you see these two tall men wearing sort of very regal armour with swords strapped at their hip, leaving a building across the way, a little to the north of the square, which looks almost like a political building or like a courthouse maybe, or perhaps even an armory. Arya, what are you doing in this building?
Yeah, I've sort of poked into the kitchen area. I'm just absorbing everything.
Yeah, memory after memory you sort of touch, and some of them go by a little too quickly for you to. You can tell they were notes. They weren't her recipes in full. Perhaps she was a little more guarded with the recipes. But they were notes to remind her. So, for example, it might say 30 minutes on each side for mutton. It doesn't tell you what else she's using to cook it in, or what herbs, or what spices. Another one simply says, add the cheese when the bread is almost cold. Little tiny things like that. And as you piece it together, you think if you could find her recipes, then these notes would allow you to replicate them as you go, without too much effort. Especially as if you had followed her layout, it's very clever that everything is close to something else that will be used in the same recipe. And these little notes are, so for example, if it's a note about the bread, it's just next to the place where she carved the bread, or it's just next to the place where she baked the, do you know what I mean? So everything's very conveniently and at hand. You do remember that her home is upstairs. She lived just above this was her home and restaurant.
Okay, great. I was just about to ask about that.
What's interesting about this is that her home spans 2 buildings. So she has 2 separate downstairs, one for the bakery, one for the restaurant, but they're linked up the top. And indeed, as you go upstairs, you see that there is this large, almost a double bed made of black stone with silver through it. There is a wonderful looking armoire, and you can see there's one door missing, and it's full of bright coloured robes that appear to be brand new.
Ooh.
You can't help but just touch the fabric gently, and it's still warm to the touch. It's soft, it's silky, you understand that it's going to resist all the elements, fit you perfectly, and be completely comfortable. And nobody else is using it.
That's true. I mean, there's plenty. Who's gonna miss one?
Yeah, I mean, no one. There's no one here to miss them. And when you put it on, the Elderling robe, it is so comfortable and it feels so natural. It grows out to the, down to your wrist. And indeed, you know that if you were to put it up to the elbows, like Zora often did, it would remain there and be very comfortable. It keeps you perfectly warm. It's also waterproof, burn-proof. It's the perfect garment. You're not grave robbing, you're house robbing. Make it,
Well, hey, the spirits and the memories are here, so it feels like as if it is.
And you see 2 beautiful, thin black stones intertwined as if almost braided up the wall. And if you place your finger on one, you remember Zora's childhood. How she came to be... Zoya, sorry, not Zora. And how her mum taught her to cook. And how cooking was always a part of her life that made her feel warm and at home. And she never felt she had a special talent for it. But she was always willing to learn, and she loved learning recipes from all over the place. And the more she learned, the more she wanted to open her own place. And then you remember her meeting her husband, Harvin, and him helping her set up the restaurant and buy it for the first time, and giving her the bread to work with. As you touch the other strand, you follow Harvin's life, as he was a youngster who didn't really have many prospects in life. His parents weren't very well off. And because of this, they used to bake this sort of large flatbread together that they would fill with seeds and other things that weren't too desirable to eat, and piecemeal them off into meals. And he learned from his father how to make that bread go as far as possible, and it was always his dream to sort of become a baker. And indeed, he started a little stall selling pastries and made so much money that he could not only buy this wonderful home, but also afford to court this beautiful woman. And then, Arya, you're urged to touch both at the same time. And when you do, you remember their first date. When them getting married, them moving in together, their first child. And you can follow their memories as a couple if you touch both at once. Emil, you weren't going to go in, but after about 10-15 minutes, you're wondering where the hell Arya's got to. You might need to go and retrieve her from the memory stone eventually.
I'll be for a few more minutes and then I'll...
But you do notice this very sort of large, stately parliamentary building, courthousey thing across the way, where these armoured men have come out from, and we'll come back to that in a moment. As Davy and Patrick, you wandering across town. You're looking for somewhere to live, is that right? Oh no, you were headed into the big blocky building, which people were being rushed into. Is that correct? Yeah. So this building is, you know that only half of it is standing. You're not sure what happened, but the other half has just disappeared. And as you go over, it's a little difficult to go in, as you see everybody who goes in seems to be rushing, and everyone who comes out seems to be walking very slowly and very tenderly, and it's like a nightmare to find a space to pop in, but eventually you do. And for a second, you see this sort of whitewashed walls, and dozens of beds, and shelves from floor to ceiling covered in books and scrolls. And then you sort of double blink, and almost all of it has fallen to ruin. Davy places his hand on the wall, lighting the place up. You notice, sort of right in front of you, a large desk with a single sort of black slab right across the top of it.
I will touch it.
Okay. You move over, and at first it almost seems to be asking you a question to state your name and your problem. But after a moment, you realise that you can then, almost as if you'd switched to the other side, remember the thousands upon thousands of patients who came in here. People documented in notes such as Virus, broken arm. Lionel, missing tooth. Patricia, collapsed. And each one of them is coming in with an ailment, an injury, a problem.
Davy, this person lost their tooth.
Oh no, what a tragedy. Where did he lose it?
I don't know. It doesn't say. It never came back.
Perhaps that man will know. And he points over, and you see this sort of golden scaled man rushing from person to person, bed to bed, placing his hand upon them, apparently just sort of making them feel better in cases, healing them magically, other times performing stitching, surgery. At one point
That's a frontal lobotomy.
At one point you see him with his fingers on somebody's head regrowing one of their eyes. This was a powerful healer, and something beyond anything you've experienced. In other cases, he was just speaking with them or giving them bottles. And it doesn't take you long to pick up his name. You have found... well, technically there's two of them, but this is Bode. He was a gentleman here. And a woman, a little bit shorter with purple scaling, called Kimura. Also a healer here. Less of the magical type, more of the physical type. A surgeon.
What kind of people lived here? This is crazy, Davy.
That's amazing. Imagine being able to... We would live so much longer, and so many wounds that people live with would never be a problem anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I can already kind of do that, so it wouldn't be too long until I could do this. But it's pretty crazy.
Perhaps. Do you think... And then he gestures towards one of the shelves where these little sort of constant black slabs, over and over again, hundreds upon hundreds of tablets. And he sort of motions to him. Do you think that's where the knowledge is?
I don't know. I'll go over and I'll just go...
Yeah, that's like a thunderstorm inside your brain. You get blinking bits of memory and like try not to have a fit. Eventually your finger settles on one, and you get a very sort of precise... It is upon this day that we learned how to knit two bones together. The following manner can be provided if using magical means, but otherwise, if using practical means, one suggests that you... And it continues onwards, telling you exactly how to splint a broken bone or repair it magically.
Davy, they can knit bones.
That's remarkable.
You know, like jumpers. They could knit bones.
Let me see that. And he comes over and he puts his finger on it. No, that's to fix if a bone is broken, to knit it back together, to make it all one again.
Yeah, with those knives.
I didn't see any knives.
To make jumpers, that knitting.
I didn't see any knitting needles either. Maybe you need to watch it again.
No.
It's awful morbid though. Everybody's hurting in here, even if they are being fixed. I wonder where they lived. They're not upstairs, surely. And he sort of begins running around and just poking things. And eventually he finds that they had this cottage a little further up on the hill.
Oh, we should go look at that.
Okay. Yeah, let's. And as he heads outside, you can sort of see it up on the hill. It's black stone with silver veining. It is missing a facade. And as you get closer, you note that there was once a beautiful sort of fence around it, and you feel the urge to still walk through where the gate would be, even though the fence is no longer in existence.
I will.
And when you enter in, you see one of these. It looks like a lattice work almost across the back wall, almost like a tapestry of black stone. And when you go over in your instinctive curiosity, and Davi's as well, different strands are different memories of theirs, whether their childhood or how they met or other little things. They had a goat for a while as a pet, although they kept outside. They very much enjoyed the cheese that could be made from it. They used to love going for long walks on the hill behind this cottage that no longer exists. And they do remember the Kimora's dragon. Kimora's dragon was a great white dragon. Bold's dragon isn't in almost any of the memories. Not only that, but dead before he was truly born. He was only a couple of months old. And for an elderling, he had very few elderling features. And a lot of his longer life and his comforts were attributed to his learning of the healing arts and his magic, not actually being an elderling. He was a little scaled, but not so much. His parents, both elderlings, but him not so much. As you maneuver around the home, it's a very comfortable place, quite large, and you go upstairs and find Davi is wearing this fabulous deep blue long robe, elderling robe that he's found. He's also wearing a couple of pieces of jewellery, a large emerald ring on his finger. He sort of, is it wrong for us to enjoy in these things? They're not coming back.
But you don't know. Did you see the kind of stuff that person was doing?
It was so long ago. We know if these people still existed. The dragons say the Elderlings died out when the dragons departed.
Well,
besides, look at this! And he sort of shows you this fabulous sort of ivory comb and some other pieces. He's very excited about it all.
Where did you get the robe from?
I
try to look disinterested.
I've got to show you because it's not just the robe. Like, come and have a look at this. And he will show you. You've never seen a full length mirror before. And there is a full length mirror. You would have seen a hand. You would have seen a hand mirror because Elise had one, and it was somebody who were able to use it. And you've seen yourself in the water. But this is a full body mirror.
Fine, I know what I look like.
And Davi sort of comes to stand behind you, and he sort of turns you towards the robes. They do all look way too big for you, but he will tell you that his shrunk when he put it on, and hopefully it will do for the same. Every colour you could possibly imagine, except for black, grey, brown, and white.
Damn it.
Everything's colourful in the Elderling wardrobe.
How annoying. Nothing goes good with orange. That's
apart from orange.
Yeah, I don't want orange on orange. I'll look like a giant freckle. I will go with the blue.
Yeah, matching blue robes. You look very cute. They do shrink to you.
Can I have like sky blue though, like a baby blue?
Yeah, okay.
Great, thank you.
And he will, Davi will sort of, is that Carson? And you do hear Carson calling you to return to the square.
We shouldn't go.
I very much think we should.
But we should stay here.
And perhaps we will in time, but right now, it's my uncle. We've got to go. Nonsense. And he sort of pulls you out the room by the hand. Yes. How did you miss that? Come along, come on. And he sort of pulls you by the hand out. Natani and Twiggy. I've developed a stutter. Natani and Twiggy. You're in the Rose Cottage. Qu'est-ce que tu fais? What are you doing?
Well, I want to ask Natani if there's anything she wants to check out. Any of these buildings speaking to you?
Well, I mean, I do like Crimson and Cyan. I mean, honestly, I like them all. I think we should just... What's the next one? What's the closest one?
So right next door, there is a black stone one with silver that's a little ruined. It's missing a roof. And right next to that one is the Cyan, sort of pale blue building.
I vote for the Cyan.
Okay.
Yeah.
You skip over the destroyed building and you rush on in. This was a very happy couple. They had 4 children, which was very unusual in Elderling times. His name was...
Have we not seen many children at all in these memories?
Very few, because Elderlings lived almost 300 years, sometimes 400 years, but tended to have 1 child at most, who would grow to maturity within 30 years. Very few children. These people were blessed to have 4. His name was Florian, and his wife was Lorelia, and she was a florist. But not in the way you might think. She did sometimes take flowers. Indeed, she often got flowers from Gwendolyn down the road. But she also took flowers that had been wrought of glass or of metal or indeed of silver and worked them in. So bouquets that never left, really. And you can't get any concept of what he did. It's not recorded anywhere. You get the impression that it was something a little secretive.
He was a spy.
I know, now I want to look around for secrets in this house.
They seem to live a very happy life. He was very well paid for his work. You get the impression that it was a little high risk.
He was totally a spy.
And he died young.
Totally spies.
You do know he worked in the north side of town.
Intriguing.
And you know he worked with a woman called Amarinda.
Gosh. Well, now I'm curious.
Curious you shall remain. As you hear... Toddy! Twiggy! Davy! Aria! Anybody else who's not a Mel? So Carson is shouting people at the center of town.
I guess we're done exploring for now.
I'm sure there'll be more later.
Yeah, a lot. Well, let's see what Carson wants. We'll go back to center then.
Emil, having awoken Arya from her memories, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll head on over to the big building you was mentioning before, the
big parliamentary building, yeah?
Parliamentarian-looking building, yeah.
Okay. And you may do so. When you get towards the doors, you feel an urge as if you're not meant to be going in. And then you sort of, no, this is quite fine, and you sort of steel yourself and head on in. You see the first thing of any sort of religious notation that you have seen in this part of the world. A grand sort of white dragon with a humanoid-ish face, golden and white. It greets you in the entranceway. It is not wrought of black and silver stone. It is genuinely a statue that has been made in this form. Underneath is written in Draconic, the giver, the judge. It's the giver, the judge. You note that to the left room is what appears to be a sort of almost like a theatre room, I guess. There are raked seats like this, leading down to a podium. In the other room is a series of small holding cells. And then there's a spiral staircase that leads upwards. This appears to be somewhere a cross between a guardhouse, an armory, a courthouse, a place to be judged, also a place to perhaps have less serious matters, more of a civil courtroom, I guess, sorted as well. And one man seems to preside over everything. He has silver scaling on one side of his face, and an almost angelic air to him, with bright gold eyes. He is the first person you've seen whose race is sort of clearly not just Elderling, but something special an Elderling. From a player perspective, you might note it's an Aasimar. It's an Aasimar Elderling. So, but from a character perspective, you wouldn't know that. He just looks shiny. There is a spiral staircase leading you upstairs if you wish, or you can go into the courtrooms and poke about.
So the big room with the seating round the outside, which amphitheater almost looking type room. That's one of the courtrooms, and I'm assuming.
Maybe you're not really sure. You can go in and have a little look, and in fact, when you go in, you see memories of lots of people sat in front of this man who's giving a speech. You're unsure if he's preaching or if he is talking about sort of like the AGM notes. You're not really sure. But whatever it is, everybody seems attentive and listening. And as you head down, you can put your hand on the pedestal and understand that this was General Cassiel, as he was known. The General Cassiel was a man of strong magic and even stronger willpower. He sometimes even made rulings, not between dragons, so to speak, but between dragon tribes or colonies. He dealt with dragons that visited from other cities. You didn't think that dragons were particularly tribal or colonial, and they roamed the whole world. And yet, the dragons of Kelsingra seemed something a little different. You notice many times where he was restricting the amount of time a dragon could visit for the purpose of drinking. You don't know what. It seems almost a little secretive. A little withheld, a little, what's the real word I'm looking for? Redacted is what I'm going to use. It's not what I'm looking for, but we'll go for it. You note other times at which he is making rulings of selling a house from one Elderling to another, merchant disputes. Everybody seemed to come to General Cassiel for advice. And yet when the Elderlings went to war to protect that which Kelsingra holds, whatever that is, you're not sure, he led them into war alongside a man named General Telator. Or Telator. I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to go with Telator.
I see. Well, rather than opt to investigate this room further, there's a spiral staircase. Let's check what's upstairs.
Yeah, you head on up the staircase. Ari, you can follow at a distance if you wish, or ignore them completely. It's totally up to you. When you get upstairs, you see this sort of grand appointed chamber in your memory, but then when you look around, it is almost completely empty, and in fact it does look like somebody has purposefully trashed this room. People have broken things that didn't need breaking and wouldn't have broken naturally. Even the bed is sundered to 5 pieces. But whatever they were looking for, they didn't
dig for any memories that will show why they did this, or
whatever they were looking for. You don't know. But then you do note that the hearth itself seems cracked down the center, and you can make out this sort of black stone behind it. And in fact, you're tall enough to just reach your hand in and touch the memory stone. General Cassiel is quite well spoken, and this is not like living the memory. This is like being told the memories. And you hear his quite official voice in your mind. It is I, General Cassiel, making my account of my life. And then he begins to tell you of how he grew up. His mother and father were very magical, but not Elderlings. His father was a fairly renowned wizard, and his mother a priest. She believed in the goddess Ida of the land, and indeed she had a temple. He was born to them and left home at about the age of 25. And it wasn't until he was 40 that he came upon a dragon who was mortally wounded. He expended much of the magic that his mother had taught him to repair the dragon's wounds and help it. And in return, the dragon brought him to Kelsingra. Over time, he ingratiated himself into the community long before the dragon chose him as an elderling. But when he did eventually rise to the stage of elderling, he'd already taken on a role of a mediator, often helping people settle disputes as something of a, what do you call it when you're not one side or the other, unbiased, outsider almost. He didn't have any bonds with any of the people who lived there, and so could take a fairly neutral stance. Over time, especially after becoming an elderling, General Cassiel becomes a little more martial in air and a little more arrogant and prideful, believing that he knew better than most because of his upbringing and that many of the elderlings were too set in their ways. Indeed, he didn't believe that other dragons should be allowed to visit Kelsingra at all. It was too much of a risk. That which is protected at Kelsingra could be found. But what is protected at Kelsingra is never mentioned. And just as you're getting to the really interesting part, you hear Carson finally, Emil! Arya! I'm going to pull you all back together. And there's yes, they're hiding the Chamber of Secrets. As you all turn back to the square, Carson, goodness me, it's already lunchtime, come on! The next group is wanting to come over, we have to head on back. Besides, your dragons will be waiting.
We're going back to the boat?
Of course. We were only meant to come for the morning. The next group will want you to explore.
Here? We can explore together.
And who will feed the dragons?
They can come too.
That's one of the
Get
main
them on the
reasons
boat.
we need to get...
Fine.
He looks at the small rowing boat you've managed to get across the river.
No, the big one. The big boat.
You specifically couldn't land the big one at this side of the river. The water is too torrid. And also, across the river is downhill. So, it's like this. And then the river. It's going to be mighty difficult for the dragons to cross. Carson sort of, we'll come back tomorrow morning. But for now, we better get across. Come on.
I run over to Twiggy. Twiggy, look at this robe. They're only for elderlings.
Oh my goodness. Look at the fit. It's like,
I know.
it's perfectly tailored.
Who else is wearing
Yeah.
one? Davi and Arya, right?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, love that.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think it was made for me.
That's so cool. Wow, I wish well, let me tell you what I saw.
I am going to hold you guys there for a minute. We are going to take a short break before we carry on that conversation. Be right back. Back to the second half of Dragon Keepers. Twiggy and Patrick. Twiggy, you just turned to Patrick and said, let me tell you about what I saw.
Oh, yeah, I was kind of just gonna fade to black. There's no need to recap.
Oh, you don't
we
want to
already
recap
were
that. Okay.
We're there, but I will
What was Twiggy most
Patrick
excited to tell Patrick about?
specifically, yeah, that, she was, how excited she was to see the garden and kind of what, all the different things that were growing there, and then the willow tree across the water was so amazing. And yeah, basically just telling Patrick how she's calling dibs on that house.
Oh my god, that's just like your name.
I know, right?
That is crazy.
It's like, it's the same.
I found a house on a hill.
Nice. Is that where
Yeah.
you got that beautiful robe? I don't remember
yes.
actually. Sure.
Yes. And I also found a doctor,
Ooh.
and he was, you know how you can stitch a jumper?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
He was, and those daggers you use for it, he was doing
Right.
that to stitch bones.
Wow. This elderly technology is I would never have imagined this.
Yeah, and they were growing eyes.
Just loose?
I don't know, maybe. And there was this, Davy found this, sex play, and I had to pry him
What?
away from it. I
What?
say that bit very loudly. So
Tats-
everyone can
Tats-
hear.
Storm over to
Tats-
Davy.
we found that too.
Wow, Tats and Davy, are you guys serious?
It was a little awkward though.
We're here to do something important.
We can't help what we found. We
And
also
then
found something
I go
really
to
cool though.
Tats,
Tats
and
will
then
tell
I
you.
go to Tats, lower my voice. Which way was the sex plan?
he's sort of. I'll tell you next time we go. I'll point it out. And then turns back and. But we did find something really amazing.
Oh.
And then he sort of elbows Tamara. Show them. And Tamara sort of hesitates and. We found these rooms that were like huge bathtubs, and they filled up with water, and it was hot, and it was really soothing.
Whoa.
And then she sort of shrugs her shoulders and she pulls off her cloak, and you can see that her wings have grown and are like fabulously shiny and beautiful.
Oh.
Wow.
I just think if they did this to me, what would they do to our dragons?
Oh, okay.
We
So
need
this
to get
did
them over
just
here.
happen. Good.
That's
And it was also really relaxing and.
When's the last time any
And
of us
Tat
had
sort of
a
leans
hot
over
bath?
to Twiggy and it's not the only things the water made grow.
What?
We
I punch him in the gut, but I'm laughing.
right. Are you telling me you grew a tail as well?
no, he was only telling Twiggy.
That's right, Emil.
That he was quite excited.
Your perverted mind stays out.
By sharing a bathtub with Tamara, even if it was like 40 by 40 feet.
So he was sitting right next to her.
It was a
huge
swimming
hot
pool,
tub.
yeah, pretty much. Well, Tamara would explain that it was big enough for dragons.
Yeah.
Multiple
That's
dragons
incredible.
in the same room.
Tamara, did you try out those bad boys yet? Come on.
Yeah, I've tried, but nothing. They don't do anything.
That's
Tara
okay.
says they're just to look pretty, but I'm gonna keep exercising like your Balapa does.
Exactly.
My dragon should exercise her wings too, but she doesn't like the idea of it. She gets quite annoyed about it. You can tell she's been trying to bully Centaura into practicing flying all the time, and it just never works. And as she mentions this, you will see Hebe sort of gliding across in the sky, Rapscal, sitting, riding on her back.
They still haven't landed.
No, they have landed multiple times.
Okay.
But dragons spend now that she can fly, she spends almost no time on the ground except for when she's sleeping.
Can you imagine? They spent all that time getting up and then didn't figure out how to get back down again.
But she hunts.
Land.
She hunts on the wing. Obviously, she's exploring. Yeah.
All right. I guess we'll go back then.
Yeah. Like
Well, the boat
very
is already
moody and
halfway across the water.
reluctantly go on the boat.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was still
You've been
back.
having this conversation
I
on
thought
the
so
boat.
Well, I guess we'll keep going back then.
Well, I guess I accept going back.
Yeah.
Carsten
Well,
said,
there's also-
first thing in the morning, you all want to go back, I take it?
Yeah, I'd like
Yeah.
to start investigating, see if I can figure out what the hell they were protecting out here.
Dibs on not pairing up with a meal.
Emil, what did you say? You want to work out what they...
So I saw some memories of one of the more renowned generals that were protecting this place among other things, and there was something here that they were protecting. They made mention of it, but they didn't say exactly what.
Twiggy and Natani, just a reminder, this was this links in very closely to the very secretive Florian.
Interesting.
We may have an idea.
Oh,
Something in the north side. I'm not sure entirely where, but Florist's husband, Florian. Sounds like
Yeah.
a children's novel. But
That is quite bad, isn't it? Florian and his florist wife. To be fair, in the books, it called her a flower weaver, not a florist.
Oh, that's so much cooler.
Because she had, but in the books, you already know what the glass flowers are, but I had to explain them, so I had to say she was a sort of florist. At which point, it becomes Florian and the florist. But Florian and the flower weaver is much better. Anyway, north side.
Okay.
The north side is the other side of the rift through the city.
Ugh.
You can cross it on a bridge. It's not.
Oh, okay.
You can also climb down and up. It's not going to be a supreme
I was
obstruction.
imagining it was a huge ravine.
No, not at all. At some point, it's literally just like a sort of 7 or 8 inch crack. It's just it's a sign that the world once separated and came back together there. Most importantly, it broke the road, and the river now flows somewhere else.
So, considering that we were, ambushed coming into this place, maybe it wouldn't be wise to go alone to the north side then.
Carson nods,
what
and
else is kicking around.
I've inspected this side of the city as best as I can. Couldn't find any more trouble, but we'll see with the second group if they find any, and we'll go from there, really.
Haven't you ever heard that you shouldn't look for trouble?
Well, it's better that I find it than, imagine Sylve just finding it on her own. It's better
No,
that
it
we
finds you.
seek out the problems and solve them.
Yeah, but if we go out and find it on our terms, then we have it exactly as I say.
Coming
on our terms.
ashore! Lefrin sort of cuts you off and then yanks in the boat. And as you get over the other side, all of these... Sorry, Jamal, it wasn't you directed personally at you. What's interesting is that all of the other keepers are sort of lined up on the shore waiting for you to tell them everything that you saw.
Oh my gosh.
And Carson's like, whoa. We're going to take most of you across now. All right, so calm down. We're going to go across and take it from there.
Wait, you're going with them?
Yes, and
That's not fair.
he gestures to Patrick and so's Davy.
Wow.
I walk over to Davin and I point him very hard in his chest. You made me not explore with Twiggy, and you're going again?
2 explorations.
I wanted to spend as much time with you as I could, but Carson's right. We should keep an eye out for trouble.
Well then, you better spend your time finding a good house, because we are on thin ice, mister.
You didn't like the house on the hill?
Well, we should look at options.
I'll make sure I've got all the options.
Shop around.
Very well. And I'll pat where I very aggressively poked him.
But you gather that he's going to do what Carson was doing while Carson gets to explore a little bit, basically. So he's going to stand around in the square trying to come to the aid of anybody who gets in trouble. Because Carson just spent 6 hours in the city and didn't get to explore anything.
Whose fault was that?
Davies. So, with the second lot, you will note they are also taking over a lease. But as she's going, I want to know everything you saw, and you didn't move anything. What are you wearing?
Well...
And she points, angrily, first at Davy, then at Arya. She hasn't noticed Patrick. He was behind someone. Where did you get that? That's Elderling cloth. And a voice sort of quite loudly from behind. Yes, it is. Elderlings. It's what we are. Tats sort of quite bravely walks over and if it's what we're going to be, then we need to make the city ours. It's not there to be documented, at least. It's there to be lived in. As soon as we can get our dragons across. It should be noted that those of us who aren't Elderlings probably want to start thinking about... And he gestures towards the ruins of the town you're currently standing next to. You can go, Elise, but I don't think you'll find it very comfortable. And you will remember Arya, how Swaj talked about his brother drowning in memories. In Frangong. Well, Elise is not an Elderling. She has had mental communication with Centaur. She might be okay. But it is worth mentioning that Skelly, who rowed the boat over for you the first time, couldn't even come ashore. Because to her, it was just this constant buzzing in her head. Without being able to identify
it's not some kind of Downton Abbey's upstairs and downstairs can't mingle kind of thing. It's
not at all. Those who haven't made the mental communication, it can genuinely harm them. They can get lost in the memories.
Ruins, losers.
It did kind of sound like that.
Wow,
no, but he's also suggesting that some of you guys aid in building, buildings on this side of the water, so that those who bring the boat up, for example, and anybody who wants to sort of farm for food and etc. The meadow is this side. There is only stone on the other side.
Aria, that's a lovely color on you.
Oh, thank you. And that's a lovely color on you.
Thank you, I know.
Where'd you find one of those?
In the house on a hill.
Ooh, I found mine above a bakery.
What kind of bread?
Ooh, this is gonna take a while.
It's a test.
There's a lot.
Oh, wow. Did they do scones?
They did.
It's not bread, but...
Well, they did variations.
No, they did them in the bakery next door.
Oh, I see.
You've got to go, if you want scones, you're going to have to go and visit Harvin's. Anyway, as the rest of them are leaving, Sylph will just come over to Iron. Was it safe?
It is now. There was a little bit of danger waiting for us to approach, but we took care of it. We're fine. Clearly.
You think it'll... Is it... Should I be worried? Not about being safe, just about... We've travelled so far. Is it home?
Will be.
She sort of nods and she goes and takes Jerd's hand and sort of reassures her. And you get the impression that although she is nervous, she was mostly asking for Jerd. The two of them have become fast friends since all of the fallout. Go ahead, Patrick.
I was going to do something, but since she's got a friend, she can go for herself.
Right,
It's gonna be nice to her.
Probably
But
not what she's going across the river to do.
Yeah,
but...
if she's got a friend, then she can have a friend to be nice to
She's
her.
got a friend in her. Yeah.
I'll find it. I will walk over to Jerd, and I will present her the comb from.
Hey, girl.
Excuse me.
That's definitely how she's going to respond. No, Jerd will sort of look at it and, oh my god, that's beautiful. Is there more like this over there?
I think people say thank you.
Oh, you're giving it to me?
I kind of look at her dumbfounded as I'm literally holding it out for her.
I thought she was just showing it to me. Are you sure? Patrick,
Well, I'm sure there's others where it came from.
No, You'd give me something so pretty. Thank you.
Well, I try to use it in my hair, but my hair's really not a...
I can help you with
no, thank you.
that.
Davy likes it like this.
You two look good together. Thank you. Sylph, look what Patrick gave me. Isn't it amazing? And she sort of turns and shows Sylph the comb, and like you can see she's really moved. She really wasn't expecting you to be giving it to her at all. She just thought you were showing it to her. As the other group crosses over, you will swiftly be assigned tasks by Bellin. How horrible is that? There's hunting to do. There's a campfire to build. You need to set the tents up. Everything needs to be readied.
I'm not touching a Bill's tent.
Probably sensible.
He can set his own tent up.
Yeah. He's already in it. Wishing he had seen the sex scene.
He was on it on the boat ride. He did.
He's pitching a tent in his tent.
Yeah.
And
he pitched it on the boat.
Anyway, let's leave default alone, and return to the fact of there's loads to do. We need to go hunting. There's fishing to do. The boat needs unloading. The inside, she wants to get it cleaned down and ready for cargo. Lefton has decided that he's only going to stay here for 3 days, and then he's going to go back, all the way back, to Treehawk. pick up supplies and bring them back upriver. This is now that you've found the city. He wants to go and claim his pay. He wants to go home and visit his friends and his family. And he also wants to bring you guys seeds and livestock. And, you've now got these meadows on this side which could be used. And there are some people that may want to live there. People from the Rain Wilds who are looking for a better life, who don't want to be Elderlings and aren't going to be Elderlings.
Wow. Hey, can I ask him?
Yeah.
If you see my dad there, can you...
I'll be taking letters for everyone if you want to write one. Don't worry,
Sure.
it's going to be 3 days, and Elise has agreed to help write for those that can't. And...
That would be great, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I was gonna.
And many of the
bring
keepers
him
have
here.
said they want to give their pay to their parents. But we'll get to that issue when we get to it. But certainly, we're going to need strong hands and good workers.
Right. And
Your
he's
dad,
great
he
with
grows
plants.
things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no better place than this. And he gestures towards the huge rolling meadows, beautiful fertile land.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna start thinking about my letter.
Hey, Twiggy,
Yeah.
what was it like over there?
It was crazy. It's like I was seeing, like, living different lives and learning their memories, but in just an instant, I could see how it would be overwhelming.
It's all a bit grand for me. But, I do have something to ask. I once went on a boat, a live ship, a very grand one, and they had this Elderling-made teapot.
Ooh.
It warmed itself. You know how Elise loves her tea. Have you seen anything like that? Could you maybe bring one back for me? I'd really appreciate it.
I give him a wink and a thumbs up. I got you. I'll keep my eyes out.
Was there a church over there? Not
Did I
that
see
you
anything
saw.
that looked like a church?
Not that you saw.
Yeah, no. Nothing that matched that description, but we didn't get to explore the whole town. They must have something like that.
Well, I've heard that maybe some of us regular folk might struggle over there anyway, but I'm just, a woman deserves a beautiful place to get married.
Whoa! Did you propose already?
No, not yet. Shh. But
Wow. Okay.
it's a bit complicated. She already had a husband back home who, and I don't know, maybe she wanted to settle on with a man who's not got all those fancy airs and graces, but she seems alright when happy with me, so I was thinking of asking her.
Yeah, you know what? Wait until I find that teapot and maybe a proper bouquet of flowers, and I think that would be great.
Sounds wonderful. Over the course of the afternoon, you can all sort of discuss with each other that which you saw and, talk about your plans for the next day. And late in the evening, everyone comes back. The other group come back, and they're just as happy and amazed as you. Jerd is wearing like 6 necklaces. She's got beautiful Elderling jewelry on.
She's got the robe.
She's wearing a robe. She's got other robes over her arms. She'll come and give any of you a robe that didn't get one first time. She looks like the only thing she's done over there is go shopping. And she's claimed 3 houses, apparently. Okay. You'll notice Cedric is also bedecked in all sorts of... And that is why Carson, of course, wanted to be able to explore. He looks very happy, and they're looking very coupley. Carson is not wearing an Elderling robe, but Cedric is sort of trying to tell him he should. You'll notice all of the others seem quite happy and quite excited, but specifically, Case is making eyes at you again, Natani, but in a different way. He seems like he's got something to talk to you about, but he doesn't say anything. And then after a little while, he sort of comes over and, Tani, I need to talk to you a bit later. Real private.
Later?
Yeah, kind of And then he sort of looks up into the sky and sees Hebe landing. Maybe now, actually.
Okay.
Will you come with me?
Yeah.
And he's going to lead you over towards Hebe. And he'll say, Hebe's agreed to let us hitch a ride. I need to show you something in Kelsingra. I don't think it should wait.
I turned to Hebe and... Are you sure that's okay?
Oh yeah, she's sure! Rapscal will tell you. Hebe just lowers her shoulder to allow you to get on. You do sense Azant's disgust, but it is not for you going for a ride, it's for Hebe acting like a common mule.
I will climb up.
Rapscal sort of gestures for you to hold on to his, sort of put your arms around him to hold yourself in place. There is nothing else to hold on to on a dragon. He will lean forward and just sort of cling tightly. He's obviously been there a lot. And then you feel Case's arms sort of come alongside yours and also go around Rapscal. And this is not going to be comfortable because Hebe is going to run across the ground before she takes flight. There's this sort of gallop going on. It's like being shaken about all over the place. At one point you feel like you're going to fall off and then this massive wing buffets you one way then the other. You're sandwiched in between these two men, both of whom are far weaker than you are. And they're sort of flopping about. At one point your shore Case is going to fall off the back. And then suddenly, whoosh, the dragon's up in the air and she circles. And she circles again. It's cold. The wind is rushing past your face as you're taken higher and higher into the air. You knew she was going to take you just across the river, but it seems like in this moment she is taking you to the skies. Rapscal will explain that Hebe needs to come in from the other side of the city, and that's really not what I was looking for. Hebe needs to come in from the other side of the city, and for that reason she's going to have to sort of take this long, low glide. She's not very good at landing at the moment, which will be really appealing to find out when you're about 300 feet in the air. And you just hear Case go, "You what? You're still good at landing? You could have told me that before I..." And then Rapscal, "It's fine, we'll be fine." And then circling down, so that he becomes in sort of low towards the Elderling city and then runs along the ground really, really fast. Dex save, please. At disadvantage because your arms are being held. I will make one for Rapscal and... oh dear. And Case. Who died?
Who is that?
That was Case dying.
It's a natural 20 and a 2. That's a 3.
Yeah, great. Okay, so Rapscal sort of almost stands up on Hebe, and you can see he's done this before, and just at the last moment he leaps and like runs on the ground next to her, slowing down. The two of you just fall flat on your backs. You're rolling, like Case sort of lands half on top of you, his legs sort of over your chin. It's a messy tumble. But the two of you sort of just about manage to get up, and Rapscal will say, "Hebe's gonna hunt. She'll be back in a couple of hours. I'm gonna go take a bath in the baths. Find me there when you want." It's the most normal sentence Rapscal has ever said. I completely forgot to roleplay him. Anyway, and he'll walk off, and Case will sort of, I really didn't want you to have somebody else find us. Yeah, hour's about right. Maybe we'll grab one of those hot baths that Rapscal's talking about afterwards, but I've got to show you this. And he leads you towards almost the north part of town. And you're going to see it before he tells you anything about it. Standing in front of you, almost 40 foot tall, is Natani, a statue of you. It doesn't have your crystal scaling, but it is literally you.
By any chance, when you look at that, does it look like you?
No.
Good guess.
As I said, I thought you better see this for yourself. Her name's Elmira. She was a warrior. There's memories. No, not Elvira. Elmira.
Then I'm less interested.
Go on. Go ahead. It's alright. As you get closer, you do notice a few small differences. Apart from the fact that her scaling is different and shines in a different way. Her hair is not quite the same colour. She's broader of shoulder and taller. I mean, a lot taller because it's a 40-foot statue, but you can see proportionally she would have been taller than you. And as you move closer, you do see this sort of plaque that says Elmira, Protector. She sort of is leant forward. She's holding a huge tower shield on her left arm. She has this vast sword in her right hand. A sort of tapered sword, longer and with a dragon's sort of scaling along the blade and a wing. That's the crosspiece.
Just reach out and place the palm of my hand on the tower shield.
You're shown immediately a memory of her sort of standing with her shield raised in front of a dragon that was wounded, fallen to the ground. Half an army, really, is advancing towards her. Men, humans, crossbows in hand. She takes 4 or 5 bolts into the shield before meeting the charge. A man on a horse sort of reaches down to swing at her, and she raises her blade and deflects it and decapitates him in one swift motion. Despite her battle prowess, her movements are all tailored around protecting the dragon behind her. Not her dragon, someone else's. Her dragon is flying in the sky. You can see her look up for it for one moment. This beautiful, deep red scarlet dragon flying over this city, terrorizing the ranks of humans from the back. This city is like Kelsingra, but not. A different city of the Elderlings. And the humans are attacking it. And over the time, you'll realize that actually the Elderlings had to retreat eventually. They couldn't protect the city, even with the help of their dragons. Too many humans came. They desiccated the city. And in the end, buried it under the ice. But Elmira got every dragon out. And all but one keeper. Or Elderling. She was their warrior, their talisman. And she looks very like you. Seeing you sort of take your hand off of the shield, Case looks over and... her home was here. It was the home I found first. She didn't like the statue much. The memory of the statue was in it. I had to come and see if it was there. Do you want to see her home?
Yes, I would.
He will lead you across the town to this fairly humble home. It's a little building. It's well appointed. And it still shines, just the echo of a pale silver. As you go in, there's this sort of beautiful rack for armor. A crosspiece hangs on the hangs on the ceiling. That would be weird. Hangs high up on the wall. You know that it probably once held her sword, but does no longer. But other than that, there's quite a few creature comforts here. There's a memory stone, sort of almost chaise longue, I guess, that you could sit in, recline on. She's got a lovely dining table that's still intact. A neatly appointed kitchen, and as you go upstairs, just a small room, and her one big luxury, a large bathtub designed for herself. You find up here the memoir of her life. She had been married once. The one dragon keeper she left, one elderling she left behind. And the city of Aslevial was her husband. He stayed to protect the rest. A fighter like her. He enabled her to get away. She never recovered from that. She hated that the statue was of her and not of him. She was a fairly simple woman. She trained hard. She loved a good fight, but she also loved her creature comforts and her dragon very closely. She lived a long enough life that she was no longer able to fight when she finally died. When you move your hand from the memory stone, you look around, but Case is not here. You know that he's gone outside to give you some space.
I think I'll just move around a little, just trying to see if there's memories of others. That just the fact that she looked so like me is confusing, and I'm trying to find out if there's a possibility of her being my ancestor.
Mm-hmm. You filter through all the different memories, and there's almost no possibility at all. She came from a land of ice and snow far, far to the west. Possibly where a pale lady got slayed and soul-forged. You see almost no connection. But you will note that perhaps if you hadn't become an Elderling, you wouldn't look that like her. And perhaps the dragon's ancestral memories aids them in shaping Elderlings, but also ends up with them shaping Elderlings similarly to how Elderlings have been shaped before. Much of why she looks like you is that the scaled markings are very similar to your own, even if they are a different colour. She's also a warrior. She's of a height with you, or a little taller, and of a similar body strength. Maybe she was an ancestor of yours in some way or another since she moved here. Maybe she had a sister or something, but there's no direct recollection of anything of the sort, and you know she didn't have any children. After the loss of her husband, she never wanted anyone else. Natani, are you okay in there?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Just checking. Case got lost in a memory and we had to drag him away. I just wanted to make sure you were still with it.
Yeah, how long has it been?
Boxster, sorry. I just realised what I just done. Only a few minutes, you're fine.
I think I've seen what I can here for right now.
Okay. Do you want to head to the baths? Where Rapscal is? Like...
Delay, getting back on Hebe for a while?
Well, not only that, but apparently she's gone hunting. We might have to wait a few hours. Although, have you laid on one of those elderling beds?
No, I haven't.
Tell you what, they're good. There's one in this house just down here, and he'll sort of almost drag you by the wrist, but not in a sort of, not in a romantic way, but like a sort of a friendship, like, I want to show you this, I want to show you that way. He's like, go on, try it, and points up to the bedroom. And especially given how bumped and bruised you are, when you lie on this bed and it suddenly takes the shape of your body completely and is warm and almost encases you, it is really quite something. I'm looking forward to when we can spend multiple nights here. I can't wait to sleep in one of those overnight.
Yeah, they knew how to make comfortable things. This is... Are we sure we have to go back to camp? Yeah, we have to go back to camp. Oh my gosh, this is a nice bed.
While Natani is lying in an elderling bed, each of you will dream tonight. The rest of you, who are actually getting some sleep. What?
The night's here. I wanted to do something.
You can do something. I did say the evening passed, but go ahead.
Yeah.
You
Then
wanted to
people were
take that
riding
time.
dragons and everything happened so quickly.
No. You spent the day working and talking, and then late at night, Natani got dragged away.
Okay, then late at night after dinner, I would like to ask everyone to have a race.
To where?
Just from like one end of the ruins to the next.
Oh, okay.
A foot race?
Yeah.
Oh, you will.
Taurus looks at you and I nearly died today. I'm not in a running mood.
That was hours ago.
Yeah,
nearly
that was
died.
hours ago. You have wings now. You're still scared you'll lose? Twiggy is like jogging in place and stretching. She's so ready to race.
She sort of raises an eyebrow and, all right, I'll give it a go. Sylph's like, I'm fine, I'll sit out. Boxster will run.
Come on, Arya.
We doing bets?
Oh, wow. Are you serious?
Sylph looks at you and is like, bread roll on Twiggy.
Not on me.
Oh, you're running? You're racing?
Yeah.
You can take that, but you can take dash as a bonus action. That's cheating.
Okay, Twiggy.
Oh my goodness.
And I have 40 feet movement.
All right, fine. I'll put a tats. Bread roll on Arya. And he's like, all right. I've got my money on. Where's Natani? Oh, I'll put my money on Case or Boxster. Case has disappeared as well.
It's also not.
Where is Case?
Yeah, where's Case? Oh, that's what I'm trying to bet on's not here. Tamara will place a place a bread roll bet on Twiggy. Nobody bets on Patrick, but more to their idiocy. Yeah.
I don't know.
Getting a little involved, Carson will reluctantly be the starter. And you will note, Patrick, that Davy has come to stand alongside you, stretching his legs.
Oh, he's racing?
His elven legs.
Whoa.
His ranger elven legs.
They go all the
Man's
way
known
up.
to be a bit quick. They do.
Oh my goodness.
Patrick, as 3,
Yes.
2, 1, goes off. What
Yes,
the hell are you doing?
as it goes off, I will drop to the floor and wild shape into a giant snail and start running 10 feet per turn. And for reference, I do get a picture with this creature on the interview. I look like this, but with an orange tuft of hair on its head.
Oh, nice.
Swiftly being left in the dust, everyone is glad they didn't put any bread rolls on you. How many feet can you move in a turn, Twiggy?
I can dash as a bonus action, and my speed is 40, so 80.
That's 120.
No, wait,
You can
no, wait,
dash as
wait.
an action too, right?
Right, I can dash as an action. So, yeah, 120.
What you got for us, Arya?
90.
90, okay.
Yikes.
With the dash action, Davy can also do 90. But unfortunately, I'm going to ask you for an athletics check.
Oh, boy.
To compete.
Wow.
Beat that, bitch!
Oh
like
my
that.
god.
Wow.
Yeah,
That was pretty
at the
close.
last moment, Davy sort of takes a leap and just his head just creeps in front. It is a 1, 2, 3. Twiggy, Davy, Arya. Boxster is sort of quite a way back and forth.
Well done, giant snail.
And yeah, everybody sort of looks around and what the hell happened to Patrick? Look at the size of that snail!
Woo! Go, Patrick! I'm cheering from the finish line.
Everybody sort of realizes that it's Patrick and begins to cheer onwards.
Suddenly you can see Emil screaming through the sky. I can't believe I missed you guys getting involved in a race. Why? How did I miss this?
Where were you?
Where were you?
Me in your tent again?
You could have missed his step.
No, I'm not missing step. I just literally cast fly and I'm just screaming through the sky at him.
Oh, yeah. With the dash action, you could have done 120. You could have tied with Twiggy. Give us an acrobatics check, both of you.
Acrobatics?
Yeah.
Acrobatics? Oh shit.
It's over.
Oh, that's only a 13.
Yeah, it's a 27 from Twiggy. You might be flying, but she flies without wings. Yeah, doing her best Westlife. This coming night.
I was specifically also flying in after the fact and being like, "How did I miss you guys were racing?"
Well, you were too busy to take.
So you're just flying in to show off that you can fly.
I will, however, take you to your dreams. The four of you, as you lie asleep. Each one of you has a dream as if you were in the life of one of the people you passed by today. So, Twiggy, you spend some of your evening as Gwendolyn. In your memories, you're dealing with a particularly difficult problem. You were growing two beautiful rose bushes, one deep red and one white. But as you were growing them quite near to each other, some of the red flowers were taking on white and some of the white were taking on red, as if bleeding into each other. You remember Gwendolyn parting them, but in the dream, you are Gwendolyn. You don't make any decisions, but you experience life from her perspective. Arya, you spend a very busy evening as Chef Zoya, desperately trying to manage multiple patrons, as there's been a visit from some Elderlings from a city called Fremgong, which you know to be underneath Treehawk. That is the city that people delve and dive in. Yeah, you do a fabulous job managing the evening, and your dream sort of flies by. Emil, you spend an evening managing a particularly difficult social case in General Cassiel's memories. You remember this wonderful young Elderling girl, only 7 years old. Both of her parents Elderlings, but of different dragons. Both dragons were trying to change the daughter simultaneously, causing problems with her growing up. And General Cassiel had to go out and speak to the actual dragons and ask them to come to some sort of agreement and offer to mediate in this situation to allow this girl to grow in a way that she could be happy and be comfortable. Patrick, you spend an evening as Bode, the healer, dealing with one particular young man who was very ill. He'd almost drowned, and as such he was really struggling getting oxygen into his lungs. And you experience that sort of druidic healing, that natural healing. You know that Bode, as a player, you'll know that Bode is not a wildfire druid, but he was a druid. He was a druid of the land, of the coast specifically. And as I haven't left anyone out, have I? I know I've left Laura out, but I got all four of you, right? Mm-hmm. Great, okay, cool. I was just double checking. I was like, shit. As you do this, Laura, your Natani would be lying in this bed, and just for a brief moment, you hear the sounds of battle. You've never fought as part of an army or as part of a large group, but for just 1 second you feel the urge to raise your sword and command your soldiers. And these lives are bleeding into your own, even with this one simple visit. And then you hear, Natani! I can't let you sleep there. Come on, we better get to the baths.
I suppose.
And, yeah, he will lead you to this beautiful, ornate silver and white building. That is quite loud. And he will lead you in and then say, there's places to change. I'll see you in the water. You sort of, he goes into one of these separate sort of rooms, and he comes out sort of wrapped in an elderling cloth, like a towel, basically, and you will find some hanging up in the cubicles for yourself, as well. And then he sort of gingerly steps down into an empty bath. And it begins flowing and flooding with water very quickly. And once it's sort of covered him to waist height, he sort of lifts off the cloth and puts it to the side. They dry almost immediately, you know. Oh, hey, Rapscal. And Rapscal's sort of reclining at the back of the hot tub. What's you thinking, Natani? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'll take the bath.
As you go over to join them, Rapscal sort of... I think this is what let Hebe fly. After the storm, we washed up in this area of like dense jungle up to the north of Kelsingra. She couldn't fly till we got to Kelsingra, and she found these baths. It really changed her. Do you think we're going to be able to fly? If we have enough baths?
I think what happened to Tamara, I think the baths have helped a lot, but I don't know that it's ever really meant to be that
Oh, we're not
way.
all getting wings? Aww. Oh. Well, I suppose that makes her really special. She's very pretty. Not that you're not pretty, but... You know, Rapscal, in his very awkward manner, has just effectively insulted you, told you're pretty, and told you that you don't have wings, so you're not as cool as Tamara.
Firmly in mouth.
He didn't even think of it that way, though.
No. And he sort of, aren't these amazing? And he sort of rolls back and starts floating. And much to your disgust, Natalia, you will very swiftly notice that when he's floating on top of the water, he's completely naked.
That does not surprise me. I will just turn and just float myself. Not looking at him.
Case is looking at you, quite intensely for a moment, and then you see him sort of notice that he's staring, and look away, and sort of shake his head and look to the back, and sort of after a little while of you all enjoying the hot baths, you will notice, Natani, that not only yours but the other two as well, their scaling is really much more prominent, shiny, beautiful. You all look invigorated, and Tats is right. It's not only Tamara's wings that grew. You do feel not necessarily taller or larger, but stronger, invigorated in more ways than one. The scaling sort of hardened upon your skin, really standing out and looking beautiful. Rapscal oh, sorry, go on.
I wish we could take this back. I'm sure they'll be able to get here soon enough. It's just... It would be a lot easier if we could take it to them.
They need to practice flying. Hebe was practicing right at the beginning.
We saw.
Yeah, every day. She did her jumping and her flying. And it helped. And you will just hear in your mind Azanth say, yes, she takes off like a cow with wings. And lands like one too. Something funny? Case asks.
Nope, nothing. I will just think back to Azanth. If I ever were to get the honor of riding on you, I'm sure it would be 1,000 times more pleasurable than a ride on Hebe.
I'm well and sure it would, and it's something you probably won't experience unless we fly into battle. I'm not a horse.
I should think not.
Case will tell you that Dortian is going to be one of the first to fly. He's very excited about it. And yet it seems slightly unlikely.
I mean, if we're able to get them all over here, I imagine their transformation would take place at around the same time.
But, they're going to have to fly to get over here, aren't they? Maybe that's what we need to work on.
Was it ever mentioned that there was that warm spot down the river? Like,
Yes,
I know
and you know that every single dragon spent time there. Some of them longer than others. There is also another one a little closer that the dragons will be visiting. But it's not just the warmth. They're going to need to practice flying. Going to need to exercise, eat well. Hebe hunted for quite a long time, Rapska will tell you, before she was able to fly. In fact, she could only fly 2 days before she came and found you guys, even though she had been at Kelsingra for almost 3 weeks. So she spent a long time just hunting and spending time in the warm places and practicing flying. But you will need to get the dragons to fly to get them to this side of the river. And
that's what's necessary. I'm sure they'll be able to do it, no problem.
Yeah.
At least some of them.
Well, Hebe's coming back now. Are you ready to cross again?
Yep.
She lands easier on the grass, I promise.
All ready to go.
And indeed, taking
All
off
right in
into
the back.
Okay. Whatever his name is will go in the middle. Case. And as Hebe sort of gambles along on this high uphill, she sort of jumps up. Give me an insight check, Tani.
16.
16. You have noticed that both times when you went to Hebe, she took off from somewhere higher up. Leaping out over the air and then flying, not just, not just taking off from the ground. Maybe worth noting, but we'll see if you can still remember it when she tumbles you off at the other side. As she sort of, again, circles really high up, and then you see her get distracted, and she begins going way past the camp, and Rapskull sort of, Hebe's seen something to eat. Hold on tight. And Hebe is going to come down and grab an entire deer out off the ground and lift it up, and bring it back to the camp. And it is the most terrifying experience of your life, Nadani.
That deer has a tuft of orange hair on its head, actually.
We're not killing you, because that deer is dead. And as she sort of comes in at this angle, it's sort of so difficult to stop yourself from falling forwards over her head. And then as she rears up, you feel the weight of Rapskull and Case leaning back against you as you're trying to hold on desperately for dear life. And eventually, when she comes into the camp, or not quite into the camp, she's a little further away and comes down to the ground, she does so with a deer underneath her feet, which makes her landing incredibly worse. I'll take that dex save from you.
This time not with disadvantage, right?
They're rolling with disadvantage. You can give me a straight roll. Rapskull fell off the side. Case has fallen, literally face forward over the front of the dragon. Nearly gets trampled on by the dragon.
That's a 19.
Ah, beautiful. And just as the dragon sort of... You sort of jump, and then the dragon leaves the spot, and you land down. Sort of hero pose, ready to go. Unfortunately, no one saw it. Sorry. But yeah, as you are all dreaming your dreams of another life, Natani, in the few hours sleep you manage to get, you are able to dream, not as you might have thought, of Elmira, the Protector, but of Adriel, the blacksmith. She's forging a sword, and the following morning when you wake up, you check your sword, and it does seem to be identical. You know that there was more than one of these swords back at the armory, so it might not be the very sword you're holding. But it's a nice little coincidental memory to leave off with, as that is where we'll end. We will come to the timeless tradition of MVPs. And I will start where I finished, and I believe that is with Jay.
Yeah.
Yes. Good. Once I get the first person right, I know where I'm going, but I couldn't remember who the first person was. Your MVP.
Just all of the memories. Like, just looking into, like, the whole history of, like, these people and this whole... It's just so cool.
Good. Good, I'm glad. I think for me, it's really interesting that they mimic dragon lives by... remembering that came before and that came before that. And I think we're finally beginning to see, what the Memory Stone did, that all the way back in, I don't know, episode 14, I think it was, of Soulforged, when Winona found the stone with the memory imprinted inside it. That was our first look at the black stone with the silver veining. And then later on, the road that you walked on, the Skull Road. And then later on, the dragon that was carved with the black stone and silver. And finally, we're seeing the connections. There's only one more connection left to make, and I'm very excited for when we get to it. Michaela, your MVP.
Yeah, just going off of that, the memories and stuff was so cool. Like, I'm just kind of thinking about, like, our characters, I guess, living in this city and just, like, learning skills to make it a home for themselves, essentially. And also, I love the little coincidence, or was it?
It was a coincidence. I just
of the willow tree.
I've changed a few things, some names, some bits of memories and details, but my brain just defaulted to what's in the book as the willow tree, and then I suddenly went, "Oh, she's not Twiggy, she's Willow, Twiggy Branch." How bizarre!
And, that's kind of like. I'm not gonna get into her whole thing, but that's kind of what made her start thinking about her dad. Was like he never called her Twiggy, he always called her Willow. So just. That's what she really wanted to write that letter to him, so that was so perfect.
Good. Alora.
I have two little things that I really enjoyed. Like, I really enjoyed the whole episode, really. But Natani was kind of like not gonna have a purpose for herself when she got to Kelsingra, and like, what was she gonna do? She was a fighter, and then meeting Adriel was like a big eye-opener of, oh, this is something that I could do. This is something that's really cool. This is something that I can actually be useful.
Brownie points to James, because Adriel's not in the book. I had to sit there and I was like, what on earth would what would Natani connect with? Right? I had a similar problem with Emil. In fact, I think all of you have one character that I've created and one that is either in the book or related to one in the book. Obviously, I think most of you have only met one. I think Alora's the only one who's met two so far. Is that right? I think that's right. Technically, we've met both of Patrick's, but Patrick's only met one of them. But yeah, I'm really glad that it hit the mark. Jamal, your MVP.
Well, there was a lot of good from this section, but I'm just gonna have to go with a funny little one. The incredible reactions I saw from at least a couple of people to when he was talking about Bode, and her tragic story, and I went, I guess you can say that didn't bode well.
No, it didn't. It didn't bode so well. Bode is a he, by the way, a male healer. His wife is Komora, also a healer. Just in case Willow and Patrick wanted to go into a healing business together. Obviously not marrying each other, but they could have found those two together if they had have paired up. Was my thinking, but then I kind of forgot that you would pair up with Davy. We'll send Willow. Well,
I didn't want to, but Davy was being such a little bitch about me. Shut up, Davy!
Freudian slip, I believe that is called.
No, Davy was being such a little bitch about not being picked.
No, honestly, it wouldn't have bothered him.
I want to go with Arya, and yes. Davy was like.
He wouldn't have batted an eyelid if you had have gone with Twiggy, because she's your best mate, and like he would have been fine with that. But when you chose Ari, he was like, "Wow, I'm third in the pecking order."
Wow.
Yeah, and he was gonna go with Twiggy. Josh. Oh, sorry, did you have a second one, Jamal? Did you say? Or are you...
No, I was saying, cool. Spoiler alert, we know who wears the pants in a relationship now.
Yeah,
who calls who
Daddy.
Daddy.
Son, your MVP?
Oh my god.
I think I just throw up a little bit.
We have never called each other Daddy, ever. I want to make that very clear.
Good.
Anyways, moving very swiftly on. I agree with everyone. with what they chose. But I've got to give it to, yet again, another episode. Poor Natani's such a sex bomb. She's being like dragged to beds, to jacuzzis, to romantic dragon rides. She just can't catch a break.
I thought he was very, very well behaved in not trying to take you to a bed. In the books, you are taking the part of Tamara in that situation. And Rapscal takes her there, and
in more ways than one.
And they do end up after the bath in that elderling bed overnight, quite happily together. Yeah, I wanted to give it a little level of choice. More than anything else, because
Which boy?
Yes, and Case taking you gave it a little bit more flexibility, and hopefully next week Arya will take the other part of Tamara's story, and we'll be able to see the whole thing, not the Rapskull part or the Tats part. You'll understand when you see the other character chosen. I have a few MVPs. I've got to give a little mark out to Michaela saying that Davi's legs go all the way up. And I really enjoyed the conversation between Arya and Patrick about robes. But also just the ridiculousness of Patrick telling Twiggy about their growing eyes and knitting bones.
That's what they were doing.
They were, but the way you took it so literally, it was really cool. I really liked that moment. And of course, just the way that Alora dealt with finding a statue of herself. That is where we're going to end. So if you guys would like to say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
We shall see you soon.